Wish TV is proud to honor teachers in Central Indiana.
She is an inspiration to all of us.
He's always smiling.
Who go above and beyond.
He's done so many things for so many people.
He's inspirational.
Making a difference.
He's always taught me to believe in myself and never get down on myself.
Everybody's biggest cheerleader.
And deserving of recognition for their outstanding efforts in education.
I love the people that I work with. And to know that I've made an impact on somebody's life, it is truly a great honor.
It's an honor. I love what I do, and the kids are the ones who make it work. I'm like just so taken aback because I love them so much. The fact that, they love me just as much just means a lot. Sorry, you're going to have to cut that part out.
And you are our winner.
Oh, thank you so much.
From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Golden Apple Awards podcast.
Hey everyone, Hannah Mordo here. This month's Golden Apple Award winner works at Purdue Polytechnic High School North, but he gets kids out of the classroom with life-changing field trips and even helped his students create a coffee shop business to pay for some of their classroom trips. His name is Mr. Dustin Homan. Kids call him Coach Homan, and they truly consider him a friend. In fact, a student nominated him for the Golden Apple Award. It comes with a trophy, a $500 school supply shopping spree to Teacher's Treasures, and a surprise visit from me. That surprise happened really fast. There were a lot of emotions. His kids were there. His family was there. It was so much fun, but we didn't hear enough from him, so we brought him back here on the podcast. Coach Holman, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Hannah. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
So you've had a week now to digest everything, the surprise, and then it being on TV, the award. How are you feeling now?
I still feel like I'm riding a cloud, and part of that is probably because I just returned from spring break in Mexico. But there was no better way to start that trip, Hannah, than we left Tuesday morning, shortly after it aired. So we watched it, my wife and I watched it together, and then we headed to the airport. And I think the most meaningful part of it was there were some people, family members, friends, students, parents that reached out, just short messages like, you deserve this, or we agree. And I think that was such an important part for me coming from this award, was to be able just to reconnect with some people. And I feel invigorated today too, Hannah, like coming off that award and time away as well, like back in the classroom today. And it just felt like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. We did a refugee simulation today in geography. And I had a moment during that refugee simulation where I thought like, yeah, these are the experiences that I want students to have. This is the reason why I'm teaching, that why. So it's been amazing. And I'm, again, so grateful for you, Wish TV, for doing this for our teachers. I also expected the segment to be just a couple minutes, but it was like 10 minutes long, Hannah. So that was awesome.
I always push the limit on length, and sometimes my producers are like, we do have to get to a commercial, but you deserved it. You really did. And your story had so many different pockets to it. We could have just done a story on the coffee cart itself. You've done a lot of amazing things in your short time at Purdue Polytechnic High School. Tell me a little bit, some backstory. How did you kind of switch gears and decide this is what I now want to do?
I think we talked about this in the clip. It was the pandemic. I grew up in a household where my parents were both hard workers. Neither of them had a college degree. And we were a lower middle income family. And so growing up in that situation, education was the only route I saw out of kind of that cycle. And, it's nothing against my parents or the way that I was raised, but I had a desire to do something different than than what my parents were doing. And again, I saw education as my route out of there. So I think from a very young age, I've always highly valued education. And then once I had been through my high school and college careers, I realized that everyone should have this opportunity if they want it. And so that's what really led me down the path to wanting to be an educator. I went the 4-H route initially, as I told you about in the clip, and I had a great time doing that. I got to travel, visit different countries, help to start 4-H programs in different countries, which was amazing. But that role was more of managerial program manager role. So you kind of come up with a program and then you train volunteers to be with the students. So I missed being with them. And then when the pandemic hit, you have a lot of time for reflection. And I did a little bit of teaching through a screen, which was awful. Mm-hmm. And I think just doing enough of that made me realize I need daily doses of students in person in a classroom. And it's about that time that I started looking. I knew about PPHS because of my work with 4-H, which is facilitated through Purdue University, through Purdue Extension. And I immediately was drawn there, happened to have a social studies position, and here I am.
The rest is history.
That's right. As a history coach, I love hearing that.
Your students really kept coming back to, one of them even asked me, I think it was Jackie's like, can I call him a friend? Because that's what he feels like to me. And I was like, yes, you could call him a friend. But I mean, it's that getting on the same level with them that I think really makes you stand out for them. Talk about that a little bit. What's your kind of ideology when it comes to teaching? Because that is a little bit different than some other educators.
First of all, we're blessed here because I have autonomy within, I like to think of it like kind of like the bumpers in a bowling alley, right? So we've got our state standards, obviously, that we have to teach to, but we've got that whole lane in between those bumpers, to get the ball down to the pins. And I'm very grateful for that because I work well in environments where I can be creative. One piece, or one thing that's important for me in that creativity is connecting students with our community. And so we do that, a little bit through like our coffee cart. We bring people in, but I want students to get outside these walls. And when we get outside these walls, I think students get a little more comfortable. They open up a little bit more. I open up a little bit more. We just start having real conversations that a 50-minute period doesn't facilitate. One thing that comes to mind is we were on a field trip at one time looking at different coffee shops to get ideas for our own. And on the way back, Jack, who's in the clip, happened to see a couch that was set out for free. And, I hear him yell, "Coach, pull over. We're taking the couch with us back to the coffee shop." And so we've got our PPH bus like parked, in the middle of a road with the blinkers on safely. And I've got kids hauling this couch into the bus. And I think back on that experience and like, we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't got out of the classroom. Mm-hmm. Kind of a silly example, but we still talk about that. Like we joke about, remember when we picked up that couch? And so it's those kind of stories that we share as a bond because we got outside the classroom. And I think that's where a lot of my relationships come from. And when we went on our DC trip and Philadelphia trip recently, and I really spent, I was in close quarters with a lot of students. They were just sharing stuff with me, Hannah, about their home lives, stuff that they struggle with. Even as we visited some of the monuments, I'd hear someone say like, "Oh, my grandpa served in the war." Mm-hmm. And those are the pieces, those are the deep connections that I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do that.
In a way that you can really teach them so intertwined with, this is real life. This,
absolutely.
Your grandfather served in this war. This is maybe an experience that he went through, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
I couldn't even get into the depth of your field trips in the story, but I mean, you on a regular basis, it sounds like, are putting these kids in front of leaders in the community, in the state, people that are making big decisions. Why is that? And how do you do that?
Well, first of all, thinking about our legislators, they would much rather hear from students than from me. Mm-hmm. So it's a joy to be able to coach them up and then put them in front of legislators who listen. And not saying they won't listen to me, but it's more impactful coming from them. For example, we had 2 students I took down recently to a hearing at the State House about school funding. And to hear Philip and Jack get up in front of all these legislators, shaking because they're so nervous, but they knocked it out of the park. And then you've got legislators saying, I hear you, that was really impactful. Thank you for sharing your story. I mean, those are the aha moments as a teacher. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have got that in the classroom. So I'm always looking for those opportunities. As the government teacher, I want our students to feel that there are multiple ways that they can connect into democracy and make an impact. So this past cycle, we wrote letters. We wrote one to Kamala Harris. We had a legislator come in. We did like a town hall. We took them to the State House so they could talk to their legislators. I want our students to think that that's just normal. That's what you do. And so that's why we do that stuff. And I'm looking forward to building on that in future years.
When your students have walked in at the beginning of the year, have you seen, just from your perspective, does it feel like students feel like they're disconnected from government and history? And is that part of your rationale for integrating it this way?
I'm smiling because, I mean, the answer is yes, but I'm also smiling because I love during the first couple of days just kind of sitting back, and I'll throw out a couple controversial topics, and I'll hear them, say things like, well, I heard this on this news channel, and I heard this on this news channel, and no one cares about what us young people say. And you hear this stuff. It's like, we do care. And so now we have a cycle to work on you getting your voice out there, because I don't want to hear those things ever again. Those aren't excuses. And so we did. I mean, we went to the state, like I said, we went to the State House, we went to DC. And I hope it lasts. That's one thing as a teacher, when the cycle ends, you submit your final grades and you're always like, what's the long-term effects of their involvement in my classroom? But a couple of them are still sending me news clips about stuff we talked about. That's what makes it worth it as a teacher. All right, hopefully you caught the bug.
It's obviously a passion of yours, but a lot of work too. And we showed in the story, you have 3 little kids. How do you manage to do this all and do all these field trips and organize these things and get out of the classroom? I'm a mom myself. I have kids very similar age. That in itself can be time so consuming. How do you manage that all and give equal amounts almost to your kids who are your students?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Hannah, because I think that's a struggle for a lot of educators who have families. I don't have it figured out. I'll be honest. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I could not do it without my wife. She is an amazing, strong woman who I'm very blessed loves this age that our kids are. Our twins are 4. Solomon, our youngest, is almost 2. And she just loves this age with them. So I'm really blessed that, when there are moments times I need to stay after school, if I need to come in early, she just always does it. And I think we've talked to, I enjoy the older, once the boys get into elementary, middle school.
Well, you teach high school, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I anticipate that our roles will shift a little bit, but yeah, I couldn't do it without her. It takes 2.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we always say it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah, and counts for our own kids, but then also certainly you're helping provide that village at school. It's also, though, you entered during the pandemic. This is a kind of tough time to be a teacher. How have you navigated that? And how do you think other teachers should navigate it?
Navigating for me, I am working on trying to compartmentalize things that I have no control over and things that I have control over. And again, I'm lucky that I work at a small school who values coaches' voices. And so there are things that come down, but administrative policies that come forth. And if I feel like those policies aren't benefiting our students, I'm going to speak up. But again, there's moments that I'm constantly weighing, is this a fight worth fighting? And not even that, is this a fight that my students would want me to fight? And that's one thing that I've found. I've gone to bat for them a couple times on stuff. And part of the relationship building is, if I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it. And I want them to trust me to be able to do that. But I'm still working through that, Hannah. And I think a lot of teachers, we see injustice and we want to fix it. We see injustice that our kids maybe are struggling with housing or transportation. It's like, I want to help. And depending on our time of life, we may or may not be able to. But I think the most important piece is just showing up, Hannah. As an educator, and I think other educators would tell you too, it's just showing up. A lot of these students have had adults say they're going to be there and then have left. And by you just showing up every day, they know they can trust that you're going to be there. And so at a very basic level, navigating all this is just showing up.
Yeah, you clearly do. I mean, your students just spoke so highly of you. You're also very active with them on social media, showing kind of the world, the things that you guys are doing. How do you think that works in your favor? But then how do you also manage this world where kids are just sucked into social media and their phone all the time? And then how do you then place them into like, no, we're at this farm, we're doing this, how do you balance?
Yeah. Oh, man, it's still a struggle. One of my classroom expectations are up every day when they walk in. Number one is put your phones to bed. And inevitably today, I bet I reminded them 25 times between my first two classes. We're also coming back from break and we just have to, get back in that. But it's a constant struggle. And so I am also learning, however, that one way that they show they're invested is by posting on social media. So I'm learning, for instance, if we're doing a lab like we were the other day, a student had pulled her phone out and I was like a hawk. I was like, put that away. And before I got there, I saw that she was taking a photo of the experiment and posting it on TikTok. And it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, this is not how I would show I'm invested. Like I would be present. That's how she is. And so it's those moments I'm finding a balance between put your phone away and if you want to share this to the world, do it, because we need more good stories like this.
Yeah. Whereas you and I might be like, oh, this is a rude thing to get out your phone.
Yes.
They're like, I am showing my support by posting about what we're doing. That's so interesting.
And I hear it like on a daily that, oh, you're such a millennial, Coach Holman. Like, okay, well, that's true. It's,
you knew that would be a negative in an old side.
Right.
I feel like
we used to say that about, we used to say that about boomers, right? Like, oh, you're such a boomer. Yeah. Now we're getting.
Yeah. Well, for other, millennials or people that might be older, have kids that are students right now. What advice do you give to parents about really connecting with their kids, especially high schoolers?
I'll give you an answer, but I probably would have a different one if my boys were high school age.
Yeah.
Haven't gone through that experience, but I will say from a teacher perspective, I can tell the students whose parents ask what they've done during the day, parents who engage with them, parents who maybe help with their homework. That is very evident in the classroom. And I also have to remember that some students don't have that at home. And that may come out in behavioral issues, or they may shut down and maybe suffering from depression as well. So that's kind of the category, that I really want to try to help wrap my arms around those students even more so. But if you're blessed to have high schoolers in your home, be present. And it's got to be frustrating to be at home with them and they're on their phone and probably giving one-word answers to stuff, but it's a process for them. They're developing their personality, their brains are developing. Just don't give up. Keep being present.
I think kind of the same goes for teachers, as you gave that advice in the story. Don't give up too, because I know for some teachers, we've had a lot leaving the field in the last few years. Is that kind of what you would say back to them, or what would you say?
We've had a few coaches here at our school leave who were just amazing people and connected with the students in a way that I wasn't even able to. And I'm sad. I'm really sad that they left. I think it's also part of, it's a systemic issue too, where this is the way we've always done things. Like teachers must be in the classroom every day between these hours. And we just have to get real that that's not the world that we're living in right now. And giving teachers, I understand compensation sometimes is a touchy subject and that may not be an option, but giving teachers some flexibility to go on professional development trips, get their students out of the classroom. If they're exhausted, saying like, take a half day, work on your mental health. Like we have to think creatively about ways that we can reward and appreciate teachers that are outside of this mold that we've been in for generations.
Yeah, you really, when we surprised you, you were so genuinely thankful. One of your immediate reactions was to thank us. And I was like, oh, I'm surprised to even hear that in the moment. But it does seem like if there's something that we can all do, maybe more needs to be done for teachers.
Man, yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because I came this morning, there was a handwritten note from a parent on my desk. Those little acts of kindness like mean the world to us. Now, don't get us wrong. We won't turn down like a free meal or a Starbucks, but just a note, especially handwritten in today's digital age, like that goes a long way with educators, especially educators that feel like they're showing up every day, but maybe they're not seeing the results, but the parents are seeing something happen at home. Just let us know. And when I retweeted your story, I included that in there, like just reach out to a teacher today. You don't know what they're dealing with. And it's also a struggle with teachers who are dealing with so much mentally. You can't confide in a 13-year-old about that all the time. And so like, we kind of need our outlets too. So yeah, just reach out.
Yeah. I love what you said. A little kindness goes a long way.
It does. Absolutely.
Anything else that I didn't ask you about that you really want people to know?
Children are our future. And I feel like I hear a lot about like, yikes, this next generation. Well, what are you doing about it? You don't have to teach full time, but is there someone in your neighborhood that you need to invite in for a meal? Is there someone in your neighborhood that you can ask to come over and maybe help with some chores and pay them a small reward? But in that meantime, you're building a relationship. Kids act the way they do because sometimes they're crying out for help. And so whatever you can do to help a young person around you, however small, can go a long way. It can make a lasting impact. So that's all I would share. And I think, again, I want to thank you and Wish TV for doing this, because our educators need this. They do. And we really value that.
It is a joy to tell your guys' stories. And thank you. That is a good lesson to end on here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Hannah.
Mr. Homan says this is just the start. He plans to keep getting students out of the classroom and inspired to learn. From Wish TV, I'm Hannah Mordeau. We're going to continue honoring teachers in Central Indiana who go above and beyond to make a difference in children's lives. So if you know a teacher who deserves recognition, please nominate them for the Golden Apple Award. It is so easy to do. Just send a detailed nomination in to wishtv.com/goldenapple and listen for the next winner right here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The Wish TV Golden Apple Awards podcast. Nominate a teacher and learn more at wishtv.com now. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and discover even more great podcasts now on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.